Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thanks for joining me. I wrote the script for this show on Friday morning, but of course, with the news that came out on Friday afternoon, early Friday evening, kind of didn't really feel like I really wanted to bother doing a video about the game against Steaua Bucharest on Thursday. Whether you're a royalist or not is irrelevant. The news about the passing of the Queen on Thursday was quite sad. You may, as I said, you may or may not be a royalist, but you have to admire a woman who was at the helm for such a long time, had a family around her. That we all have families that some we love and some we hate, and I'm sure it was no different for her. A family that sort of put her through quite through a number of tasks, and yet she had decorum, she had grace, and passing of the Queen was sad. And so I kind of left the show, and I thought, okay, I'll get round to it. And I've managed to sort of put this show out on Saturday. You'll see it sometime on Saturday afternoon, I'm sure, or Saturday evening. And it's just to talk about a little bit about the game against Steaua Bucharest, or Fcsb, as they're now known. And I'm not going to do a step-by-step review of what happened in the game, but I'm going to talk more about the players. The players that took part in the game, and what we sort of got from it. Do have we got any outcome from them? Do we know any more about some of the players that played? Are we happy with what we've seen? Do we believe that we've got a proper squad now in order to compete with not only the Premier League but also the Conference League? Sorry, the Europa Conference as well. So I'm going to sort of go through it in that perspective. But first of all, like I said, on the day, we all paid our respects. And I'll be really honest with you, not only did we pay our respects, but well done to the Steaua fans as well, who got involved, and they clapped whilst we were singing the national anthem. They were clapping, etc., and they paid their respects as well. And you've got to admire them for having done that too. They were very respectful, considering the situation. Right, so let's go through the lineup and let's talk about the players individually and see what it is we believe we've found from that game. So there it was. Alphonse Areola, as we now know, is the second choice, or the cup keeper, whatever you want to call him. And other new players that were involved. Kera is now sort of like beginning to be one of the first names on the team sheet. Emerson, because of the injury to Creswell. I think Emerson would have started anyway, even if Creswell had not been injured. And then further up front, Cornet got a start, and Skamaka was back from illness. But of course, the man of the moment was Flynn Downs, and it was really good to see him actually getting a start in the game. And I was really pleased for him. I think he had a good game, but I'm going to get to him in a moment. So let's start off with Areola. Look, I won't lie to you. When we signed him on loan last season, I predicted he'd be the number one keeper. I was wrong. He signed on a permanent basis this season. I predicted he will definitely be number one keeper. Wrong again. And I'm a bit puzzled. I mean, I'm sure it would have been discussed with Areola what's expected of him. But I kind of look at this young man, 29 years of age, and I think he's got all the attributes to be a fantastic goalkeeper, not only in our Europa Conference competition and all the other cup competitions, the FA Cup, the League Cup, etc., but also in the Premier League as well. Excuse me. And I personally would prefer him to be our number one. Look, Fabianski, great servant, good shot stopper. But Areola, for me, good shot stopper, commands his 18-yard box, and above all else, got great distribution of the ball when he has it. And I'm actually really surprised he's not yet number one. And I just wonder, we heard during the transfer window that apparently we were in for Nick Pope, and we made an offer for Nick Pope, and he turned us down and decided to move to Newcastle instead. So I'm beginning now to ask myself, is David Moyes convinced on Areola to be our number one keeper, to be our Premier League keeper? Or does he think he just doesn't have the attributes to be that number one? I'm puzzled if he does think that, because I think a lot of us do think he's got all the necessary attributes to be successful in the Premier League. But if the rumour is true, well, the rumour, apparently Pope came out and said he turned an offer down from West Ham. So if that's true, does Moyes not quite trust in Areola that much in order to make him our number one keeper? I don't want to play devil's advocate. I think it's an interesting situation that Areola finds himself in. I think we're going to find out at the end of this season what happens next season. But of course, Fabianski has got another 1 year option on top of the current year that he's in. Now, Fabianski is going to be 39 years of age by the time the next season comes around. And I'm sure, you've had keepers playing in their early 40s in the past. I think Shilton was something like 42 when he retired, etc. And you hear of keepers in the past finishing their careers at a high, in their early 40s. But I think times have changed. I think things are different. Situations are different. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the rest of this season goes. And also very interesting to see what happens at the end of this season when Fabianski, we're all expecting to finally retire. But if we trigger Fabianski's extended yet 1 year extension, will he then be the number one again? And will Areola still continue to be the number two going into the next season? If that was the case, I'd be really, if I was Areola, I'd be asking questions. But I guess we'll see. I mean, it's good. We've actually got two keepers that David Moyes can rely on and two perfectly good keepers. But for me, Areola edges it. Look, he didn't have much to do in the game. The goal that they scored was no way his fault, but he did everything that he had to do efficiently. His distribution, like I said, was good. His ball control was good, etc. His handling was good. And it's great to have him. But he wasn't really tested that much. We go to right back, and we knew that Soufal was going to start the game because he was part of the press conference on Wednesday. And when you have a player that is part of the press conference, you know that they're going to be involved in the game. A lot of us thought that Harrison Ashby might get his opportunity, but we kind of don't know what's going on with Ashby. He wasn't even on the bench, and there was some suggestion when we made inquiries. We were told, well, it's only the manager can give you an answer to that, and we thought, oh, here we go. Maybe there's something going on in the background that we're not aware of. But then we were told further on in the day that actually Ashby's probably looks like he's got a knock, and that's probably why he didn't make an appearance, which is a shame because I think many of us might have expected Ashby to start. But Soufal, he did okay. Decent game, nothing, no great shakes again. I think he was solid. Kera, I mean, let's be really honest with you. I mean, it's no surprise, is it, that Kera is now almost one of the first names on the team sheet. He's got style, he's got substance, he's got great presence. His ability to control the ball, to move it around, to pass it quite easily, quite freely. He's the sort of central defender that we've been crying out for, a ball-carrying central defender, and a good defender at that as well. And it was no surprise he had another solid game. And it was really good to see that he was part of the starting lineup. And he's young; he doesn't need to have a rest. Whereas Zuma, he got his rest because, of course, we had wrong one. Of course, we had we had Ogbonna to play in the game, and it was good to see Ogbonna getting another 90 minutes run out. Well, just under 90 minutes because, of course, we had Craig Dawson on the bench. Now, I just wonder whether Dawson felt a little bit apprehensive because when he started to warm up, he looked a little bit sort of nervous. I just wonder if he thought that maybe after the shenanigans that were going on in the transfer window, whether he thought maybe the fans might turn on him or something. But in all honesty, none of that. He came, he warmed up. The fans gave him a really, really warm welcome, and of course, they gave him a really warm welcome when he came on the pitch as replacement to Ogbonna on the 90th minute as well. So it's good to see Dawson back. Good to see Ogbonna get another 90 minutes. It was great that we were able to give Zuma a rest, and fantastic to see Kera, who just looks to be, a class act. Out on the left, when I can get to the right one, out on the left, of course, we had Emerson. Now, I've already mentioned Emerson. I think he would have played anyway, even if Cresswell didn't have his knock. Look. Lack of concentration for the first goal. And he had a warning just before that where the ball sailed over his head in the penalty box and he completely missed the header. And Cordair was behind him only for Areola to save the ball. But then soon after, again, he did a bit of a Masuaku where he was ball watching. He allowed the ball to go across the face of the goal. It wasn't close enough for Areola to come and claim it. But Emerson should have been aware that he had a player behind him. And the player, Cordair, of course, got in the first half and scored the goal. So, little bit disappointing with Emerson's lack of concentration at times, but of course he looked fantastic going forward. He scored a great goal as well, following up the rebounds, etc. And that was good to see. So his attacking play as a wing back, etc., can't be disputed. I just hope he starts concentrating a little bit more on his defensive duties. When I remember when I did a review on him when we were looking at signing him, I talked about his defensive prowess, that he's aware of the play around him, but he didn't show that in the game against Steaua Bucharest on Thursday night. But I've got every faith in him. I think he's a good addition. He's a solid addition to the team. He just needs to sort of pick up on that bit of concentration. Now, because Creswell was injured, we had a young man who was on the bench called Regan Clayton. He's played for the under-18s. And he's been promoted to the under-21s as well. He's only 17 years of age. He's been with West Ham United since the age of 10 years old. He's made 45 appearances so far for the under-18s, plus a further 8 appearances for the under-21s. And he's very highly thought of. Now that we've got Emmanuel Langelo out on loan at Birmingham City, it looks like Regan Clayton can maybe, a bit like Harrison Ashby, start to forge his way in the senior team, get his opportunity maybe in the cup competitions. And we might see a cameo appearance from him every now and again. But it was good that David Moyes has started to put the younger players on the bench at least, if nothing else. Right, let's move a little bit further forward, because I think the man of the day was clearly Flynn Downs. I think he had a very, very decent performance, fantastic play. Took him a little bit of time to get into the game, but once he did, he got into the swing of it and he showed some excellent touch, excellent movements. He sort of a bit of a snapper at your feet, closing down the Steaua players, etc. And also providing a lovely ball to Scamacca in the first half, where Scamacca should have thumped it in the net, but miskicked it completely. And you saw Downs, just went, I've done my bit. But fair play to the young man. I think he did really well. Now, people are already calling out, well, of course, Downs should start alongside Declan in the Premier League. Well, let's just hold our horses here for a minute. As well as Downs did, let's not forget the level that Steaua Bucharest are at. And it's absolutely no disrespect to Fcsb. They are, on average, a mid-table championship type team. Downs has played most of his career in the championship, so you would have expected Downs to do really well against a team like Fcsb. It's a big step up to then expect him to put in the same sort of performance against Premier League teams. But I dare say, with the performance that he put in against Fcsb, you might start seeing a little bit of Downs in the Premier League, when Moyes thinks it's the right time. But don't expect Moyes to go gung-ho and start introducing Downs immediately. I don't think that will happen somehow. Bit further up front, of course, we had Lanzini, we had Cornet, and we had Benrahma as the attacking midfielders. Manuel, I don't know what's happened this season, but and then the tail end of last season, but he certainly fell away and didn't really show much in this game against Steaua Bucharest. I was a bit surprised. I thought Lanzini would take his opportunity. I thought he would shine, especially now there's a lot of competition in the team. I thought he'd actually, stamp his mark and say, this number 10 spot is mine and mine to lose rather than to be taken away from me. And unfortunately, at the moment, especially the way he played against FC, I call them FCSB or Steaua. They're the same team, especially against FCSB. He just didn't show what we all know he's capable of. And maybe, just maybe now, he's no longer the number 10. Maybe he suits playing the deeper role. But given that Downs was given that responsibility alongside Declan, it looked, Lanzini had to play further up front. But I just wonder whether Lanzini is like looking at himself now and thinking, I don't have the legs to sort of do what I did when I was younger after injuries, etc. and so on. Maybe he prefers to be a slightly deeper player, a bit of a playmaker alongside the likes of Declan or Souček. So perhaps, he's thinking himself that he's not quite the number 10 that he used to be. And then the other players, before I go on to Skamaka, then the other players, Cornet, actually, let me get onto them in a minute. So let's go to Skamaka, because I think Skamaka, first, he just didn't look right. Let's be really honest. I think he was brought back a little bit too soon, to be quite honest with you. He just didn't look on form. He missed a couple of headers. You know, he went for one header amongst the crowd in the penalty box, and he just headed it down and it went over the bar. He displaced another header way wide, and then the shot from the Leon from Downs that was scuffed and went way out. He just didn't look right, and I just wonder. It was great to give him a bit of game time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we may be expecting a bit too much. And I hope we're not basing our judgment on that particular game against Stow. I just don't think he was right. He just didn't look 100% match fit. And I know now we don't have a game against Newcastle at the weekend. So he's got a little bit longer to get himself, a bit more training, etc. And I expect him to start against Silkeborg on Thursday in the Europa Conference when we play them. And I expect him to show a better performance there. I think he's, but it's good to have competition, isn't it, up front? Because we all know that Antonio, when he came on, was absolutely, the old Antonio, wasn't it? He ran the channels, he bullied the defenders, he closed them down, he ran at them, he passed the ball, etc., etc. Good impact sub. Has he made a case for him being a good impact sub? Would you still, once Skamaka is back up to full form, who would you have playing that striker role? Now, a lot of people would argue that Skamaka can't play the role a lone striker. Antonio is better when you want that formation. Antonio is better at that. So do you change the formation for Skamaka in order to get the best out of him? Because Antonio looked absolutely superb. Great goal, absolutely fantastic goal that he scored in the second half. And he was a bully. He actually bullied their defenders. He did everything that we expect Antonio to do. Impact sub? Because he just can't seem to do it in a whole 90 minutes. So I wonder if maybe that's the future for him. Right, so David Moyes made some changes at halftime. Off came Lanzini, off came Skamaka, off came Benrahma, who was also a little bit anonymous in the game. Paqueta came on, and he took a little bit of time, but overall, he continued to impress as well. He laid the ball on for our first goal, which ended up being a penalty. And I like Paqueta, but I just wonder, a lot of people are still saying that we're not playing the formation that suits him as well. So there are two footballers that we bought this summer, Skamaka and Paqueta, however you want to call him, who play in a better system when it's like a 4-3-3. So you've got more, you've got them players by your side rather than the 4-2-3-1. And that might not necessarily suit. When I did a review on Paqueta, I talked about his time at AC Milan. It didn't suit him. He didn't shine. He went to Lyon. They changed the formation for him to a 4-3-3, and he showed exactly what he's capable of doing. So I just wonder, with both Paqueta and Skamaka, whether David Moyes is going to have to start considering changing the formation in order to get the best out of them. I don't know. Let's see. So VAR, wasn't it great not to have it? Because that penalty, look, I think it was a penalty. I don't think it's in dispute that the goalie came out for the shot, for the pass from Paqueta, and he completely missed the ball and he completely crunched into Cornet. I just wonder whether, if that was in the Premier League with VAR, whether that would have been given or not. Look, all right, it went for us, but wasn't it refreshing to have the referee blow his whistle and that was it? We knew that the penalty was going to be taken, and none of this 5-minute wait for VAR to look at it from about 5 million different angles. It was just a penalty. That was that. And then, of course, a bit of a surprise, I guess, is Bowen stepped up to take it. Now, we knew Declan wasn't going to, after what happened in the first game of the season, or the second game of the season, sorry, against Forest. And we were wondering whether Paqueta would have been given the ball. But it was given to Bowen to take. And that was quite a canny move from David Moyes, or whoever. I'm guessing it was Moyes that decided that, because he needs a boost, doesn't he? I know he scored earlier against Viborg in the playoff rounds, but Bowen needs a boost, and that boost gave it that goal, that penalty gave him what he wanted. It gave him the boost because all of a sudden, not only did he wake up, but the whole team seemed to wake up. We were second half, we were a lot better than the first half. We were quite lackluster in the first half, but we didn't have a shot on target in the first half. And actually, from my understanding, and do correct me if I'm wrong, the penalty was the first shot on target. 68 minutes in, and that was the first shot on target. So that was great because it really gave us the lift that we needed. And it was a really well taken penalty as well. And it certainly gave Bowen the lift he needed without a shadow of a doubt. Now, also, it was a much needed win and boost. Look, let's just go a bit further. The other goals that we scored, fantastic. I've mentioned Emerson already, and I've mentioned the Antonio goal already. 3-1, I don't think that flattered us. I think that would have flattered us in the end of the first half. I don't think we were in the game, but certainly in the second half, I think we deserved that result. And we've got one of the what looked to have been the tougher teams out of the way now. I know we've got to play them away, and I know we've got Anderlecht to come as well. But now we're on, we should be set to win this group and win it outright so that we don't start going into playoff games after the group stages. And it was a much needed win for the team, but also for David Moyes himself. I did a show the other day, and it was quite, a provocative title, asking whether we should be sacking David Moyes. And I certainly don't think that. But it was interesting to see a lot of the views during the show, the comments after the show, should I say, where a lot of people think that he should go. And a lot of people think that absolutely not, he shouldn't go, considering what he's done for the club. But I think it was a much needed boost for David Moyes as well. I think not only did the team need that, but I think he needed that as well. And it was a good shot in the arm. And it's a shame that the Newcastle game has been postponed. But now we can take that performance and that result to the Silkeborg game, cement our top place in that group in that group competition, and move on. Look, Newcastle has been postponed. It's quite possible. We're waiting to find out when the state funeral will be, and looks like it could be the Monday. If it's the Monday, then we may be going ahead with our game against Everton at the weekend. If it's the Saturday, then it looks quite possible that the weekend fixtures will also be postponed as well. If they're postponed, we've got Newcastle and the Everton game to catch up on. And from my understanding, we won't have the opportunity to play those games until mid-January. I can't remember the date, but it's somewhere around the middle of January before we can they'll be fitted in. There's going to be a build-up of fixtures, a pile-up of fixtures, and that won't be good. So just to summarize, Areola, for me, continues to demonstrate why he should be the number one in goal. His distribution is much better. He commands the 18-yard box, etc. Kehrer continues to demonstrate what a bargain he really has been in a signing. It's great to see Ogbonna back, and it was good to see Craig Dawson back on the pitch as well. I'm sure he'll get another opportunity, probably as a sub again against Silkeborg on Thursday. Emerson needs to just improve his defensive qualities, but very decent going forward. Flynn Downs, real promise, but we must not start expecting and demanding that he starts Premier League games. I think it's just a little bit too soon, but he's certainly demonstrated that he can fill for either Souček or Declan. And of course, we've got Connor Coventry on the sidelines as well. Cornet, I was going to mention him earlier and I forgot. Didn't really take his chances in the first half. He got a little bit better in the second half, and I hope it's not too concussed from the clash with the keeper. But he's showing a bit of potential. But we can now see why Cornet's not being picked for regular Premier League games, because he's just not been completely match fit. But getting him fit during these Europa Conference games is the right thing to do. It was good to see Declan and Bowen get their spark back. They improved throughout that game. Bowen certainly improved after scoring the penalty. Scamacca, I just think he needed a little bit more time after the illness that he had, but I'm expecting to see him back against Silkeborg at the week on Thursday. And Antonio, fantastic, given the right kind of balls. When he played in the last Premier League game, the balls that were being distributed to him, against Chelsea, etc., were awful. Going into the corners, far corners, etc., far too far ahead. Distribution partly from Fabianski, and he couldn't do much with them. Whereas what was happening on against Fcsb on Thursday was that they were being fed down the channel, not too far away, so he can pick it up and he can run with it. And he thrives on that. Good impact sub, like I asked? Maybe, maybe. And it also proved that David Moyes can mix it up. You know, we ended up with 5 of the new signings on the pitch. Cornet would have stayed on if he hadn't been injured. So 6 of the new signings were on the pitch in the game against Fcsb. So David Moyes has proven that he can shake it up. He can change tactically. He can make changes early, as he did with the 3 subs coming on at half time. He can change formation, etc. I guess we just want to see a little bit more of that in the Premier League as well. Look, thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated. Going to leave you, of course, again, our commiserations to Her Royal Highness, the Queen Elizabeth II. I'll see you all very soon, and thank you all for watching.